this is the little Maple Djembe from video number 32, the Maple Djembe. Anyway, it's down to 15%. When I put it out to dry, it was at 22. So I'm going to try it. I think it'll be alright. I know it's below the level where there's no more threat of cracking, but it is going to dry a bit more. It'll probably get down to 11 or so. But first I need to make a jam chuck for this end to drive it. So I'm going to go ahead and actually show that on the video here. I've got a piece of MDF. It's 3 pieces of 1/2-inch MDF glued together. And apparently I need pliers to get this thing loose. To make it 1.5 inches thick, because I didn't have any 3/4 inch. Normally I just glue 2 of those together, but so this has been sitting all night. I glued it up yesterday. So there's my maximum size out of that blank. I'm going to knock most of the corners off with the bandsaw, and then I'll be right back. So for a benchtop bandsaw, it's pretty fast, so gotta love video editing. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get this put on here as centered as possible. And now we'll pop that up there, true it up, make it fit the drum, and then chuck the drum up between this and this little step jam that I made some time ago. It works out great. This happens to have a step that fits it perfect, so I don't have to cut a new one. Hope you guys can hear me okay. The camera's an awfully long way away at the moment. Now, when doing the finish turn, and I mentioned in the other videos when I was doing the rough turning, that the jam chuck has to fit the drum tight. In this situation, you're going to be between centers. It just has to fit inside of it so that there's friction to give it drive. It doesn't have to fit tight like when you're doing the open-ended turning and there's no tailstock up here. So, just letting you know, neither one of these fit super tight. But both of them fit well at the center of the drum. Try to back the tailstock out, tail stock out a bit. And creeps. And there we go. We're ready to do the outside turn and finish turn. That's what a catch does for you. See if we can fix it. How's that for a rescue? Just realized you guys are still a long way away. Let's see if we can't bring that in. Oop, too much. There we go. I don't know if you can see it, but the catch that I got actually took the area right here completely down to the inside of the shelf, the ring shelf here, and then took a big chunk out of the ring shelf itself. So I just whacked off the, rounded off the outside of the bowl enough to get rid of that, and then recut the ring shelf. This is actually usually the thickest part of the drum anyway, so I have a little leeway. I don't know, there's something about the sound with heavy mass right here. It sounds better. So this one probably won't sound as good as I would have liked it to, but who knows, I may be wrong. I doubt it. I've been doing it a long time, but that's what I found in the past. So we're about to the point of sanding. I still got to do a little bit more down here, a little bit more up here, but from there to there, that's cut, ready to sand. I'm ready to sand here. That's a nice looking little drum. I play it. So that was spinning at 100 RPM, and this is a variable speed grinder, and I had it set to its lowest speed. I think it's like 2,000 or 2,200, one or the other. 120 grit paper, and we seem to be pretty smooth. I'm going to reverse it and hit a few spots. jump to 220. Very nice. Do a little bit of hand sanding. Alright, I think I can put some oil on it. And I gotta find the oil, because I'm not sure exactly where that's at. Alright, so here we have 1 part, what is that, Danish oil with a golden tint. It's a Watco brand. And then 2 parts of boiled linseed oil. The Danish oil is a really lightweight oil, and the boiled linseed oil helps it thicken up a bit. So, let me get the foam brush and rag. Here's the towel. Okay, no foam brushes. Just use a regular brush. End grain, where it's here, here, and up here, you'll watch the oil soak in real fast in the end grain areas. You can see right there, it's already dry. So we keep dosing those parts, let it suck it up. So this drum's kind of small, but it's the same principle on the bigger ones. Just takes more finish, that's all. More time to sand, more time for everything. I'm going to let that sit a minute, and then we'll wipe it down and probably put on another coat. I'm going to take it off, and on the inside I'll just put straight boiled linseed oil because I've got a lot more of that than the Danish oil. Not a bad looking little drum. So it's getting pretty soaked in and such. We're going to wipe it down here. Get the excess off of it. So I've always experimented with different types of oils and finishes to put on these things. A few of the things I can tell you is if you use a straight oil, then it's going to lose its luster like fairly quickly. It's still got the protection of the oil, but it doesn't look shiny or anything. If you use a lacquer, let it set for about 3 days before you can try to put a head on it. If you use a polyurethane, let it sit for about 2 weeks before you try to put a head on it. Because when you put something damp up against polyurethane that's not fully cured, like a wet skin, it'll stick. And you cannot tighten it, you cannot loosen it, you cannot take it off without ripping the skin. So I advise against polyurethane for that reason, unless you have the patience and time to sit there and let your drum dry for, 2 weeks to a month. A month would be ideal. Polyurethane cures a lot slower than what most people believe. So, but boiled linseed oil and Danish oils have always done real well with me. So has tongue oil. Before I knew the environmental impact of palm oil, I used it too. I've still got some of it left. I'll probably use it up, but I'll never buy it again. That's just me. So, but anyway, I guess I'm going to go ahead and move on to making the rings for this thing. So for that, we have it's like a seamstress tape measure, so I can wrap it around the drum. Up here where the top ring goes, we're at about 30.5. So I'm going to add 2.5 inches to that. No, that is not the final dimension of the ring, but when you bend them, or when I bend them and get them round, and then I size them to the drum and mark them and then recut them and weld it together. And that way I can adjust it to exactly what I want. If you get too short, if you cut exactly this length, when you bend it around, it's going to be like 1.5 inches or inch to 1.5 inches short. So I actually cut them longer than what I know I need, so that when I bend it, I can actually cut off the excess and weld it. So that's going to be 30 and a half, so 2.5 inches, 33. And then this one, the bottom is a little tougher because it wants to slide off. I'm looking at 23, so 25 and a half. So I'm going to mark my steel and cut it, and then I'll come back and show you guys the ring bender and show you bending rings. All right? So I got my pieces cut. 2 at 33 and 1 at 26. I think I went ahead and put the extra half inch on it. It's just 1/4 inch round stock, cold rolled, nothing fancy. Just cut it with the side grinder. Nothing fancy there either. Okay, so this is the orbital ring bender. Now I've had this one for about 12 years. It's been a lifesaver when it comes to making drums. Originally it comes with a hand crank on the side of it, and being I have a rotator cuff problem, that was not flying, so I turned a pulley and then another set of pulleys on a jack shaft and then a motor, and now I just turn it on when it's plugged in. Turn it on and away it goes. So these two rollers are powered and this one's freewheeling, and it's adjusted on this. As you turn this knob, it raises up and that causes the steel to bend in a circle. You'll see here in a second. Nice little curve. Like this one, I have a 25-pound block of steel with a 2-inch hole cut through it. I got it that way. I didn't cut the hole. I wish I had the equipment to cut a hole through 2-inch steel. It's a torch cut. It's clean. So, but anyway, you hit the inside of it for the hole. It continues to bend. We're getting closer. I can do that. So, let me reposition the camera back on the drum. Take it off the lathe and we'll size the rings. So let me get this stuff out the way. don't use my lathe as a workbench like this, but the camera crane is, well, not really made to show other parts of the shop. So I make some adjustments to it. It's bad enough trying to figure out how to get it to show on the ring bender there. So now, as you can see, at least I hope you can see. Let's point you down a bit. There we go. So the ring, way too big. I got almost 3/4 of an inch clearance. I want like an 1/8. So we squeeze it down until we got about 1/4. And then mark that position with my thumb. And mark it to be cut right there. Now that one and this one need to be identical. They started off the same length, and even though they didn't quite bend out the same, if I cut the same amount off of both of them, I will end up with rings the same size. So we're going to mark that one in the same place and set those aside. The bottom one is a little trickier to figure out. Because you got to figure out if it's going to go past the bottom of the drum or not. If it's going to go past the bottom of the drum, no big deal. Mark it, cut it, weld it, put it on there with the other 2 rings, and that's my part of it. I'm done. Then, if it doesn't go past the bottom of the drum, you mark it and take it off, cut it, and then you have to shrink it down even more, and then spring it sideways far enough to get it on the drum, bend it back into position, and get it to close up so that the ends touch. And then I put a sheet of metal, thin metal, in between the drum and the ring, and then weld it. To kind of protect the drum. I need to get me some more. I used to have a piece of it was a Kevlar woven cloth, and it was fireproof. It was ideal for welding on top of the drum like that, but I don't have it anymore. So, but anyway, so this guy's going to come down. Actually, this one's going to fit past the bottom of the drum, so I don't have to worry too much. But it is sprung enough that I need to bend it more. Lost my mark. He's getting about 1 3/4, maybe even 2 inches cut off of him. Pardon my speaking with the marker in my mouth. So that one's getting cut right there. And then I weld them, and then they're ready for the next stage, which is wrapping the rings. Again, that's part of it that I don't normally do. I will eventually do a heading video, but this is more about the rings. The welder is clear across the shop, and I'm not bringing it over here next to the lathe and all the wood shavings. So I'm going to weld these, and then I'll bring them back and show you them all done. Okay? So here we are, all welded up. There's the weld. Right after I weld them, while they're still glowing red hot, I put them on an anvil and hammer them down so I don't have to grind them to get the burly weld off. That's the same thing with these. They're all good to go. And then two fits on there. Those two go down there. Technically up there. And I got about 3/16 all the way around. So it's acceptable. 1/8 inch is ideal. 3/16 is okay. 1/4 inch is pushing it. Bigger than a 1/4, you need to cut them and re-weld them. A couple of things to take note of is if you use hot rolled round stock, you'll find that it bends a lot easier. You can make the ring a lot easier. You'll find that welding it is kind of a pain because you'll burn through it. And you'll also find that under tension on the drum, eventually the bottom ring will stretch. I mean, the steel will actually stretch. So a word of advice is don't use hot rolled steel, use cold roll. It's a lot harder to bend, it takes the weld better, and it doesn't stretch on here. I mean, it's basically tempered steel. So anyway, I'm going to put the boiled linseed oil on the inside of this and send it off to the guy that does the heading. I don't think I'm going to be heading this one for a video. Mainly because right now I have no rope and I only have one head. So I guess I need to talk to Shorty and see if I can get rope and heads. But I need to get some drums sold so I have money to buy rope and heads. So anyway, y'all have a nice one. We'll see you next time.